Battle Through the Heavens God, the Flame Emperor Chapter 49, The Guardian Formation in the Hall. The complexity of this ruin was far beyond Xiaoyan's expectations. He was following behind Yuero, who had a map. The forest that was circling around accidentally provoked powerful monsters to attack, but fortunately, this feeling lasted for about 10 minutes. The vision in front of him suddenly widened, and the figure rushed forward for a distance again, and a huge ancient hall finally appeared in the sight of everyone. The whole body of this hall is in the color of copper gray. The countless years have made this copper gray appear even more profound. The ancient atmosphere permeates from under every stone slab on the hall, making people feel that the vicissitudes of silence for countless years. Looking at the gray giant hall, Xiaoyan couldn't help but shook his head, and led Yuero to slowly drop to the 100 meters away. Since a strong emperor would build such a large ruin, he must have hidden it somewhere. It is also quite rich, and this trip is really worthwhile. Outside the gray giant hall at the moment, many strong people are coming continuously, but no one is the first to set foot in the 100-meter range. Those who can reach here at this time are either have great forces or people with great abilities. Outside the hall, there are many mysterious runes flashing, looming as if forming a formation. These people outside the giant hall obviously also discovered the formation, and they are not in a hurry. Xiaoyan was naturally in no hurry. If there were no defensive measures for such a rich treasure, only a fool would believe it. While Xiaoyan folded his arms and waited patiently, he suddenly noticed that a cold gaze was projected. Immediately, he raised his brows and turned his gaze, and immediately condensed on the place where the cold gaze was projected. The owner of the cold eyes is a man dressed in gorgeous clothes, with a noble temperament. Between his eyebrows, which makes ordinary people dare not look directly at him, and his long flowing hair adds a bit of arrogance. Looking at this rather unfamiliar face, Yuero couldn't help but rub her fingers with Xiaoyan, but she didn't expect to see him here. This is the martial arts of Wuchen. Yuero whispered. Oh, is he the person who has the most potential to win the great fortune? Xiaoyan also frowned slightly. The peak of a 3-star Dode. He was actually 2 levels higher than Xiaoyan. Don't look at this small second level. There is still an irreparable gap between the first level. The gap is very huge, even with Xiaoyan's current strength. It is a little difficult to deal with this man from the so-called martial arts. There was a sense of danger in his body, but Xiaoyan was not afraid either, and immediately turned his head to look at the people beside Wu Huan. At Wu Huan's side, there were many people, including Feng Leicheng and his group. At this moment, this group of people obviously found Xiaoyan and the others, and their eyes flashed with a cold color. If the eldest lady had not been following Xiaoyan all the time, she would never have met that Solomon person, causing the eldest lady to be emotionally unstable now. Obviously, the self-destruction of the strong Solomon should not be underestimated, so they resented Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan's eyes swept across the pedestrian, and then suddenly stopped beside Feng Yi. There was a white-haired man with a long body and brocade clothes. This white-haired man looked extremely handsome, with a smiling face, which made him look extravagant, and at a glance, he knew that he was not an ordinary person. Yi, is that the person you mentioned who was suspected of possessing the soul of the emperor? The white-haired man at this moment also glanced at Xiaoyan and smiled lightly. Well, I can feel that his soul power is stronger than mine. Feng Yi gritted her silver teeth, rather unwilling. This Feng Leicheng has always been cultivating the Do skill of the wind and thunder attributes. Like Feng Yi, because Feng Yi is the only daughter of Feng Leicheng, Feng Yi's soul strength has been surprisingly strong since childhood. A powerful 9th-rank alchemist, so Feng Yi master cultivates soul power, and his Do skill is weaker. After finally coming out of Feng Lei City to the ruins, I saw Xiaoyan from the very beginning, so I had a strong interest in Xiaoyan. Even with Feng Yi's soul power, I could feel that Xiaoyan was also an alchemist. And the refining level is definitely not low. There are only a few alchemists in Dode continent. In addition, Feng Yi often practiced in Wind and Thunder City and rarely went out. Seeing Xiaoyan, his affection increased greatly, and he wanted to find a suitable opportunity to compete with Xiaoyan. This is what happened before. Hehe, is it possible that it is an alchemist of the imperial rank? After this time, if you are lucky, it is not impossible to break through to the alchemist of the imperial rank. The man in white smiled slightly and said softly, Feng Yi also nodded slightly, although Xiaoyan vaguely made Feng Yi quite interested, but he was obviously more interested in the creation in the main hall beside him. What is that? Xiaoyan also disapproved, and then turned his eyes away. Suddenly his eyes lit up, and then stared at the hundreds of people in the Grey Giant Hall. Several people who were originally staying outside the main hall could not help but be surprised when they saw this scene. Someone actually entered the formation in advance? Hundreds of people in the Grey Giant Hall were bombarded by the sky-filled fire dragon and the black wind with unparalleled power. It was not discovered by Xiaoyan and the others who were outside the formation, because they were desperately resisting the erosion of the formation. After they couldn't resist this formation, they appeared in everyone's sight. It was swallowed in an instant, and not even the soul was left. The one who rashly entered the formation was led by a strong man in the middle stage of a 3-star Dode, and actually, this formation is so terrifying. Those powerhouses in the middle stage of the 3-star Dode were instantly swallowed up and not even the soul was left. This should be a formation, the last protection to guard the hall. Huh, damn it. The moment Xiaoyan spoke, the power in the formation condensed and attacked him unexpectedly. A milky white petal fell down, just in front of Xiaoyan, and then let the fire dragon that filled the sky, the black wind bombarded with unparalleled power. Boom boom boom. In the sky, the violent spiritual power fluctuated wildly. However, when the fire dragon and the black wind dissipated, everyone's pupils shrank, because the milky white petals protecting Xiaoyan were not damaged even a slightest. Since everyone is almost gathered, then let's work together to break this formation. Fortune depends on strength. Wu Huan also looked at the number of strong people outside the main hall and said. Xiaoyan's palm trembled slightly. Even such a subtle attack made him feel an unbearable pain. With so many people present outside the formation, why was this formation only attacking him? However, now is not the time for doubt. Xiaoyan's black eyes were burning, quietly looked at the powerful formation with fierce flames in the sky not far away. Immediately, his slender fingers shone with milky white rays of light, and he tapped in the air, and the murmured voice spread. Yuoro, come with me. As soon as his voice fell, the huge and strange milky white petals on his body also brought about the purest wave at this moment, which instantly wrapped Yuoro, and then the two roared out of the formation. The huge milky white light, with a shocking white light, cut through the sky at an extremely astonishing speed, and led Yuoro to disappear in front of Wu Huan and the living dead outside the main hall. The petals of the milky white lotus are slowly rotating, and the petals of the lotus are blooming slowly. The whole world seems to be gradually dimmed at this moment. That kind of fluctuation is astonishing. In Wu Huan's blood-red pupils, a tinge of unease flashed at this moment, and he felt a death-like fluctuation from the enchanting milky white lotus. And he could feel that Xiaoyan seemed to have found a solution to this powerful formation. Follow them. Wu Huan took the lead in turning into a meteor and heading towards the formation. Afterwards, Feng Yi and the others also looked at each other. Go. The living dead also followed slowly. A charming girl also followed. It's fun now. Afterwards, everyone outside the main hall flew towards the formation, because everyone knew that it was only one step away from the Emperor's great fortune. The flames and the black wind in the formation frantically gathered in its big mouth, and the surrounding air became distorted. Chapter 50. Break the Demon Lotus Fire Dragon Formation. Damn it! Where did that Xiaoyan go? When Xiaoyan and Yuoro were just discovered that something was wrong, Wu Huan followed, and he could be regarded as the third person to enter the formation, but it was strange that Wu Huan lost Xiaoyan's breath as soon as he entered the formation. As if Xiaoyan and the others did not enter the formation at all. Puff puff puff. A series of voices fell, and the huge team outside the main hall entered the formation one after another. Damn it! We can't get out. There's no way out? Those who had just entered the formation couldn't help but find the strangeness of the formation. Damn it! Following Wu Huan, this kid has only one dead end. It's better that we didn't come in at that time. It's just. Voices of dissatisfaction continued to appear. Obviously, these powerhouses began to back down at this time. Everyone is in a mess. Since everyone is here to find this so-called great fortune and treasure, we have now entered this strange formation, and we are already grasshoppers on the same boat. Too much quarrel is meaningless. Why don't we temporarily form an alliance and break the formation? Wu Huan also looked at these people smartly. Since the alliance is formed, someone must take the lead. Who will take the lead? The living dead also stood up at this moment and snorted coldly. Obviously, the living dead and Wu Huan are also the strength of advanced 3-star Dode. This living dead is obviously want to fight. Why don't you just let me do it? Wu Huan also smiled slowly. Then a terrifying aura came out. Peak of a 3-star Dode? Many people present looked at this appearance, and could not help but frown slightly. Really strong? Just when the living dead just met and said something, suddenly from the sea of people, a trace of the same breath as the living dead disappeared in an instant, and then the living dead also closed their mouths. Unwillingly. Even he's here. The living dead trembled slightly. For him, the living dead were extremely frightened. Since all of you are meaningless, then let me be the temporary leader of the alliance. Wu Huan also watched the momentum and took back his own breath. Let's go. Then he said to the crowd. Many of the people who entered the formation were also powerhouses in the peak stage of a 3-star Dode with the same strength, but they did not fight against this martial arts, because they all knew that this temporary fight was meaningless. Everyone in the formation looked at this scene extremely nervously, and they could all see that the huge fire dragon in the sky seemed to contain a strong murderous intent. Fire-killing palm. At this moment, the vindictive energy in Wu Huan's body was fully revolving, and the firelight and the black wind expanded by hundreds of meters in the ferocious mouth. In the next instant, his roar full of murderous intent suddenly resounded. Now that he has become the leader of the alliance, he must take the lead, and then he can only bear the brunt of Wu Huan to deal with this huge fire dragon. Boom! The sky inside the formation seemed to tremble at this moment, and then everyone behind Wu Huan saw 2 fire dragons and black wind dragons roaring out of Wu Huan's palm. The 2 giant dragons soared into the sky, intertwined with each other. The 2 dragons converged, the fire borrowed the wind, and the violent Doqi also expanded at an astonishing speed, extremely terrifying. People with discerning eyes know that this martial arts uses the palm as an attack and turns it into a dragon-shaped Doqi. On the other hand, it is staring at these people who have just formed an alliance, because the martial arts is also clear, and it is really difficult to let these things in front of you without any means. People are convinced. Such an offensive is basically not considered the strongest means of martial arts. Everyone stared at the pair of dragons with shocking eyes. They were carrying extremely powerful vindictiveness, and they charged straight at the monster Black Lotus in the sky, leaving a long tail of light behind them. The bewitching Black Lotus, the last lotus petal, also slowly bloomed at this time. The dark light, like the darkness that erodes the earth, quickly gathered in the center of the Black Lotus. And inside the lotus, it seemed that a black liquid was dripping down. The deep dark light suddenly became powerful at this time. Everyone could see that the monster Black Lotus trembled violently at this moment, and a black light beam with a size of 100 meters burst out silently from the Black Lotus. This black light beam doesn't seem to be too violent. It is like a black thunder that falls from the sky, swept across the sky, and then, under the gazes of many nervous eyes, with the fierce roaring wind and fire double dragon, right bumped together. Boom! A gigantic Doqi light wave of nearly 1,000 feet spread out from the place where they met, and the space within the entire formation seemed to tremble at this moment. Roar! The 2 dragons roared and charged with all their might, and waves of violent and incomparable Doqi pervaded crazily, trying to disperse the falling black thunder. But what was shocking was that no matter how the 2 dragons galloped, the black beams are all motionless, like a pillar of optimism running through the heavens and the earth, and cannot be shaken. Wu Huan watched this scene, and the unease in his eyes became much stronger. Although the black beam didn't have any amazing momentum, it made him feel chills in his heart. In the distance, Feng Yi looked at the confrontation in the sky calmly, and then moved her fingers lightly, only to see the Black Lotus in the air smashed apart at this moment, and then turned into a black liquid, blending into it. Into the black beam. Wind and thunder fingers. With Feng Yi's shot, the Black Lotus dissipated, and the surface of the black light beam seemed to have a huge Black Lotus light pattern emerging, and then the long hidden figure was finally exposed at this time. A deep, dark light erupted from the beam, and the demon Lotus also made a mournful whine at this time, and then countless people were a little horrified to see it, the 2 dragons of wind and thunder. As the demon Lotus with flaws roared away mercilessly, the demon Lotus actually had cracks appearing under the attack of the two dragons. Wu Huan's pupils also suddenly tightened at this moment. Boom! An earth-shattering voice resounded, and the black beam of the demon Lotus was penetrated by the wind and fire double dragon, and was actually pierced by the wind and thunder double dragon. Wu Huan roared. In horror, he also did not expect this seemingly inconspicuous Feng Yi to be so powerful, and then he stimulated the Doqi in his body, forming a huge power mask outside his body. Boom! The demon Lotus exploded. The black beam of light, however, ignored it, rushed straight out, and finally shot on the Doqi mask. The black light beam, in that scream, was ejected by Wu Huan's Doqi mask, and then hit a mountain in the distance. When the earth shook, the mountain instantly vanished into ashes. The entire formation was completely silent at this time, because they saw that when the demon Lotus shattered and emitted a black beam of light, it disappeared completely, and not even the slightest bones were left behind. In that scene, it was as if he had been evaporated from this world. The violent vindictive fluctuations in the sky also quickly subsided at this time, and the previous kind of shocking battle seemed to disappear completely. Let's go! Wu Huan also strode forward. The formation also shattered at this moment, revealing the true face of the hall. A heavy ruler and a slender woman appeared in front of Chapter 51, 7 Light Groups and 7 Stone Carvings. Xiaoyan? Wu Huan said viciously towards Xiaoyan, who didn't know what strange method to use to break the formation. Xiaoyan also wondered why the formation did not attack others but attacked himself, but when he first came into contact with the fire dragon, he felt that the fire dragon seemed to be very afraid of Xiao Yi. Then, following Xiao Yi's footsteps, he led Yuero through the formation. With Xiao Yi leading the way, the flame power and the demon Lotus in the formation obediently gave way, and this was the scene. The hall is very wide, and people stand in it, like ants. In the center of the hall, there are 7 huge light groups. The light groups are suspended in the air. A scroll-like thing exists. Immortal Do skill and techniques. Just relying on the terrifying fluctuations emanating from the light group is known. His eyes swept through these light groups that exuded a strange coercion. Xiaoyan's eyes suddenly stopped at the center of the 7 light groups. There was a stone seat and a stone coffin. The stone coffin was calm and peaceful. It's inconspicuous, but on the stone seat on the side, there is a gray-white skeleton, hand-pinched, sitting cross-legged. The bones of the emperor. Looking at the skeleton, Xiaoyan's mouth suddenly felt a little dry. This was the first time he had seen the skeleton of a strong Do emperor since coming to Dota continent. The coercion at the place was like a jack, causing Xiaoyan and the others to feel a sense of depression. This is the main hall of the ruins, Yuero whispered. Xiaoyan nodded slightly. His eyes shifted away from the light group and the skeleton, and looked behind him, at the exit of the formation, where there were already quite a few figures standing, and all of them had a strong aura, and among them, Xiaoyan also saw Feng Yi, Wu Huan, and others again. Hey, it came quite quickly. Seeing these figures, Xiaoyan couldn't help but sneered across his face, because he also learned from the well-informed master, the Golden Dragon King, that the formation before the main hall could not stop them for a long time. For some reason, the formation seemed to lack the core things. Inside the vast hall, the figures are scattered, except for a few loners. Most of the rest are those big forces with strong reputations in the 5 major cities, except for the powerful Wu Huan of Wuchen and Feng Yi of Fenglei City. In addition, the Living Dead City, Magnolia City, Beast City, and other forces all came here. It seems that their goals are quite clear. Once they broke the formation, they rushed here directly, for fear that they would be a step late and people might take away this fortune. And when Wu Huan and the others entered the hall, Xiaoyan, who was carrying a heavy ruler, naturally attracted the attention of many of them. The next step was to be alert, or hostile, or friendly to Xiaoyan. Many projected over. To these glances, Xiaoyan smiled and glanced at the direction where Wu Huan and the others were, only to see the latter and the others staring at him gloomily, presumably still remembering what they had encountered in that formation. Such a big loss. Xiaoyan also had a sneer on the corner of his mouth when he saw this scene. Under the gazes of those many eyes, he walked slowly into the hall with Yuero, and then stopped in the hall. Walking into the main hall, Xiaoyan just discovered that there were 7 figures sitting around the towering stone seat. How many years have been preserved? But even so, these 7-stone sculpture-like figures exude a terrifying aura, making everyone dare not set foot in the 10-foot range around the stone steps. Protector? Seeing these stone-like figures without the slightest anger, Yuuro also whispered in surprise. Well, and I'm afraid they are quite powerful guardians. You can feel it just from the stone carvings. If I expected it to be good, these 7 stone carvings should all have the strength of Dode. Since this is the place where the Emperor's fortune is, these people should be the guardians of the Emperor. Xiao Yan's eyes also flashed a dignified color. Although these stone carvings are motionless at the moment, they have just not been triggered. It is conceivable that once these stone carvings are activated or awakened, it will inevitably be a fierce and unusually brutal fight. Moreover, these stone carvings can guard the main hall. These people must be a strong men in their past life. Maybe they are the Emperor's subordinates. We should be careful. Xiao Yan also noticed a slight difference with his bright eyes. Hearing that, Yuuro has changed slightly. Although the 7 Dode level powerhouses do not know the clear strength of stone carvings, since they can follow the Emperor, how can they be mediocre? This lineup, even if the powerhouses present work together to clean it up, the loss will certainly not be small. As expected from the relics of the Emperor, this is strong. If this fight, Yuuro was also amazed, and even she felt a little shudder with such a lineup. Be careful later, don't separate. Xiao Yan reminded solemnly, then turned his head, a smile quickly appeared on his face, and cupped his hands in a certain direction. Xiao Yan looked along, it turned out to be Qing, a member of the Alchemist Association of Cheng-Na. Hihi, little friend Xiao Yan, it's better to come early than coincidence. This is the main hall. You can see that the gray-white dividing line is getting weaker and weaker. I'm afraid it will completely dissipate in a few moments. See, when he arrived at Xiao Yan, Bai Shan also smiled, leading the strong alchemist to come and smiled at Xiao Yan. Elder Bai Shan, could this be the goal of this trip? How come there are as many as 7? Xiao Yan smiled and asked. This Bai Shan is also an elder of the Alchemist Association. Those present, I'm afraid he has a better relationship with the Alchemist Association. In any case, he is also a nominal elder of the Alchemist Association. The others are either unfamiliar or opponents. Well, it should be true, but I think the 7 light groups should be related to the 7 stone sculptures in front of me. Although I don't know what it has to do with it, who can get it depends on luck and strength. Bai Shan smiled and nodded, and said that he was quite satisfied with Xiao Yan. To be able to break into the hall deep in the ruins with 2 people, Bai Shan himself, who is not at all extraordinary, would definitely not believe it. No wonder the president told Xiao Yan to take care of him before he left. Well, I think so too. Hearing this, Xiao Yan also stared at the 7 stone sculptures carefully, and then swept over the 7 light groups with a strange gaze. There are indeed many flower heads in the ruins of the Emperor. In the end, it was not easy to get even one of these 7 light groups. Well, Bai Shan smiled, his eyes swept around the hall, and he said softly, little friend Xiao Yan, it seems that there are quite a few people targeting you this time. It's just a little trouble. Xiao Yan smiled. Those present, who were hostile to him, were just Wu Huan. Although he didn't know why Wu Huan was hostile to him, even if this Wu Huan was a peak stage 3-star Dode, Xiao Yan was also not afraid, and Feng Yi, Feng Lei Cheng should not be regarded as hostile. At most there was a hint of discussion, and then there was the living dead who stole Yuuro crescent moon green fruit, although it was fake crescent moon green fruit, but he couldn't. Chapter 52, 7 Stone Carvings, The Guardian Wakes Up. Xiao Yan whispered to Yuuro, after the gray and white dividing line is untied, don't rush to take action. Although these things are priceless treasures, they are all hot potatoes. If you get it first, it will be a disaster. Yuuro nodded slightly. She also understood that as soon as those treasures got into their hands, they would immediately become the target of the others. There were many powerful people in the hall, and one person came over with 1 palm. This Xiao Yan is not only not weak in cultivation talent, but also has amazing accomplishments in medicine refining. The most important thing is that although he is young, he does not have the arrogance of young people. His future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. He is attached to our Alchemist Association, and I have to say that this is really a correct decision by the president. Help if you can. If this big chance falls on this kid Xiao Yan, it's not bad. No wonder the president will remind him to take care of this kid. Even I can feel some unusual aura from this kid. It's really not that simple. Seeing that Xiaoyan was not impulsive under the temptation of the fortune, Bai Shan also nodded. The weight of Xiaoyan in his heart increased a lot naturally. Xiaoyan didn't know that his performance made Bai Shan give him a lot of points. At this moment, he was staring at the light clusters floating in the air of the main hall. The eyes of the people around them all reflected the light of the light group. Wu Huan also stared at the 7 beams of light in front of him, and his eyes were rolling quickly, not knowing what to think. The group of people, mainly Feng Yi, frowned and looked at the 7 light groups. The 7 light groups, there are nearly 500 people in this hall alone. It can be said that the wolf is more than the one less meat. The seal is about to disappear. Xiaoyan's face was solemn, and suddenly he heard his master, the Golden Dragon King, whisper, "Master, you said this is. Don't ask me, I don't know too much about the ruins of these powerhouses. Let's take a step by step." The Golden Dragon King also saw Xiaoyan's worry. The gray-white dividing line has disappeared. I don't know who said it, and then many people in the hall in front of them all came out with a strong greed in their eyes. The gray-white dividing line in front of him slowly disappeared, and then a wall of fighting chi that was as transparent as glass also shattered with a bang. Just before the voice fell, someone in a hurry rushed away at one of the 7 light groups that were close at hand. Looking at it, it was obvious that they wanted to get it first. And as the figure approached, the 7 light groups suddenly trembled violently, and then burst out with a strong light that was even more dazzling than before, and in this strong light, the looming scrolls inside were also at this moment turned into an ancient scroll visible to the naked eye. Above the scroll, a quaint aura slowly emanated from the midair of the hall. Chi-chi, the light group emitted a stronger light, and 7 streamers of different colors swept out from it, and then slowly stopped in front of the 7 figures. Through the luster, everyone's eyes could faintly see the scrolls. An ancient aura emanated from these scrolls, causing the eyes of many strong people to turn blood red at this moment, and their breathing was also suddenly aggravated. The immortal rank Do skill was born. The luster surged, and after the silence in the hall lasted for a short blink of an eye, a scream suddenly resounded, and then only the sound of bang bang resounded, and a strong and dense battle erupted from the hall. Standing up, one after another silhouette was like a locust, desperately swept away at the scrolls that turned into streamers. The entire hall was instantly boiling. The attraction of immortal rank Do skills is obviously a fatal attraction. The dark figure quickly attacked the light group that exuded strong fluctuations, and a flash appeared in one of the 7 light groups. Ha ha ha. The immortal level Do skills are mine. The dark man also looked up to the sky and said with a long smile, as if he had seen the immortal level Do skills within his reach beckoning to him. This is a treasure, and if you can get a scroll of immortal level Do skills, you may be able to soar. Getting ahead is just around the corner. The dark figure could no longer restrain the smile on his face, and then he reached out to the group of light less than a foot in front of him. Although everyone outside the main hall was instantly boiling, but no one moved. Instead, they looked carefully at the dark man who stretched out his hand to grab the light ball. They are also clear that no matter whether this person is successful or not, he will come to this hall. Someone must always be the pioneer. If he succeeds, he will get a scroll of immortal level Do skills, although there may be possibly others robbed it later if it fails. Bang bang bang. The dark man just came into contact with the light group and was instantly swallowed up. Rather than being swallowed by the light group, when the dark man came into contact with the light group that contained immortal level Do skills, it instantly turned into a ray of light like broken glass. You must know that this swarthy figure is also a powerhouse in the early stage of a 3-star Do day. When facing this mysterious scroll of light, he would actually so vulnerable, because it is not only the body that is broken, even the soul is destroyed instantly, and there is no time to escape. Then, from the light group, sharp sound waves spread out in the huge main hall. It caused many strong people to change their expressions slightly, and they could feel the unusually powerful strength of this voice. Just when everyone was in shock, the sound of breaking wind suddenly sounded in the hall, and immediately white mist poured from the hall, and finally gathered in the middle of the hall, and the white dissipated, and there seemed to be 7 figures in the light, shown next to the group. At this moment, everyone raised their heads, not wanting to look at the clean black shadow that disappeared because the 7 stone sculptures that were originally in the hall have disappeared. Damn it! The Guardian actually woke up. Seeing the 7 stone carvings that disappeared in the picture, many people jumped in their hearts and frowned. The strength of the 7 stone carvings is well known to everyone present. If they wake up, they will give the 7 light groups that were originally rare. The scroll of Do skills adds more intensity. Xiao Yan stared at the midair, and his face was also looking calmly. The 7 figures were at the front, one was dressed in gray and white clothes, and the other 6 figures were standing on either side of the white figure. The 7 stone sculptures under the skeleton seat originally had something like a rock covering their body, but at this time, if you look closely, there is no such thing as a stone sculpture. Their 7 stone sculptures are now the same as normal people. Moreover, Xiao Yan felt the terrifying strength that was not inferior to martial arts from the 6 powerhouses lined up in the white figures. The aura on the white figure in the center was restrained, as if a person who had never possessed a grudge, but Xiao Yan knew that the most powerful person was definitely this white figure. Above the main hall, the white mist slowly disappeared, and the 7 stone carvings revealed their true colors. The originally quiet and tense hall. At this moment, it was like being thrown into a very heavy bomb. Almost in an instant, it caused the main hall to boil like a frying pan. At the same time, the 7 rays of light on the scroll slowly turned into a ball of light and injected into the 7 guardians. It was also at this moment that the 7 figures suddenly opened their eyes that had been closed for countless years. A killing intent at this moment spreads out. The temple breaks. Kill with